Diaramanda Ross watched the tall alien beings enter the meeting room aboard the research ship Independence. The Zephyrians looked like living crystal sculptures that moved with smooth grace. Their bodies caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. She had spent months preparing for this moment, but nothing could have readied her for how beautiful they were. Captain Jake Martinez stood at attention as the alien delegation approached the conference table. He had briefed his crew many times about being respectful and careful with their new guests. This was only the third alien race that humans had met in space, and he wanted everything to go perfectly. The first meeting with the bug-like Kythera had gone well enough, and the fish-like Nerians had been friendly too. The lead Zephyrian spoke through a small device that turned their musical sounds into words humans could understand. Their voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. They said they were happy to meet humans and wanted to talk about trade and sharing knowledge between their peoples. Dairos smiled and looked directly into what she thought were the alien's eyes. For exactly 9 seconds, the Zephyrian looked back at her. Then something strange happened. The beautiful crystal beings suddenly turned their head away, and their colors shifted from bright blue to a worried orange. They seemed upset or scared. Dr. Ross did not understand what had gone wrong. Ambassador Lisa Chun stepped forward to try again. She was Earth's best diplomat and had handled the meetings with the other alien races without any problems. She spoke slowly and clearly about how much humans wanted to be friends with the Zephyrians. She kept her eyes focused on the alien leader while she talked. The same thing happened again. 9 seconds of normal eye contact, then the alien looked away quickly. This time their translator made worried beeping sounds and said something about too much information and overwhelming feelings. The other Zephyrians in the group all moved closer together, like they were trying to protect each other from something. Lieutenant Sam Porter was watching everything from his station at the back of the room. His job was to monitor all the ships' sensors during the meeting to make sure everyone stayed safe. His screens showed that the aliens were not planning to attack or hurt anyone. Their heart rates were high, but that seemed to be from stress, not anger. The readings made no sense to him. Captain Martinez tried a different approach. He kept his voice calm and spoke without looking directly at any of the aliens. He explained that humans were new to space travel and still learning how to interact with other intelligent species. He asked if there was something humans were doing wrong that made the Zephyrians uncomfortable. The alien leader's colors slowly shifted back to blue as they answered. They said humans seemed like good people, but there was something about human eyes that was too intense for them to handle. They could only look for a short time before feeling overwhelmed. The translator struggled to find the right words, but described it as receiving too much data too quickly. Dr. Ross found this very interesting from a scientific point of view. She had studied many different alien biology reports and had never heard of anything like this before. The Kythera insects had maintained steady eye contact throughout their entire first meeting. The water-glowing Nerians communicated mostly through flashing lights on their bodies, but they had no problem looking at humans when they needed to. Ambassador Chun suggested they try talking through video screens instead of face-to-face. They, Zephyrians, agreed to test this idea. When the humans appeared on monitors, the aliens seemed much more relaxed. They could look at the screen images for as long as they wanted without any problems. The meeting continued normally after that, and both sides made good progress on their trade discussions. But Dr. Ross could not stop thinking about what had happened. She quietly asked her assistant to pull up all the records from the previous alien meetings. She wanted to check if anything similar had happened before that they had missed or explained away as cultural differences. Late that night, she sat in her lab reviewing hours of video from the Kythera and Nerian encounters. What she found made her stomach drop. The pattern was there in both cases, but so subtle that no one had noticed it at the time. The Kithra would look at humans for exactly 8 to 9 seconds, then briefly turn away before looking back. The Nerians had done the same thing, but their movements were so fluid that it looked natural. Every single alien they had met showed the same behavior. They could only maintain direct eye contact with humans for less than 10 seconds before needing to break away. The previous diplomatic teams had been so focused on making good impressions that they had not paid attention to this small detail. Dr. Ross realized they were dealing with something much bigger than cultural misunderstandings or alien shyness. There was something about human eyes or human eye contact, specifically that affected other intelligent species in a consistent way. She needed to find out what was causing this reaction and whether it could be dangerous for future meetings with other alien races. She sent a message to Earth requesting permission to set up a proper scientific study. Whatever was happening when humans made eye contact with aliens needed to be understood before humanity made contact with more species. The last thing they wanted was to accidentally hurt or scare away potential allies because of something they did not even know they were doing. The Independence continued its journey through space, but Dr. Ross barely slept for the rest of the trip. She kept thinking about those 9 seconds and what they might mean for humanity's future among the stars. 3 weeks after the strange meeting with the Zephyrians, Dr. Amanda Ross found herself aboard the science station Horizon. Earth had approved her request to study the eye contact problem and had given her access to volunteers from 12 different alien species. She felt excited and nervous about what they might discover. Dr. Kevin Wright arrived first at the new research lab. He was a brain doctor who studied how minds worked and had brought several expensive machines that could scan thoughts and feelings. He shook hands with Dr. Ross and immediately started setting up his equipment. A brain-scanning devices looked like metal helmets with hundreds of tiny wires coming out of them. Dr. Maria Santos came next, carrying boxes full of strange scientific tools that most people would not recognize. She studied the smallest parts of reality and had theories about how consciousness might work at the quantum level. Her equipment could measure things so tiny that they barely existed, but might be very important for understanding minds and thoughts. Commander Alex Turner was the last member of the team to arrive. He was an expert at watching behavior and understanding what actions really meant. He had spent years studying how different species communicated and what their body language revealed about their true feelings. His job was to watch everything and spot patterns that others might miss. The first test subject was a Kithra volunteer named Click Buzz, who had agreed to help with the research. The insect being was about the size of a human, but had 6 legs and large compound eyes that sparkled like jewels. Click Buzz seemed friendly and curious about the human scientists and their strange machines. Dr. Ross sat across from Click Buzz and looked directly into their multifaceted eyes. She counted silently in her head. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The alien maintained steady contact and seemed comfortable. 8 seconds, 9 seconds. Suddenly, Click Buzz's antennae twitched, and they looked away quickly. The behavior was exactly the same as with the Zephyrians. Dr. Wright's brain-scanning machines had been monitoring both Dr. Ross and Click Buzz during the eye contact. The readings from the human side showed something incredible. When Dr. Ross looked into the alien's eyes, her brain activity increased dramatically in areas that had nothing to do with normal vision. Patterns of electrical activity spread through parts of her mind that usually only activated during deep emotional experiences or intense memories. The alien's brain scans were even more surprising. Click Buzz's nervous system had been overwhelmed with signals that their mind could not process. The machine showed that something was flooding into their consciousness from the outside. After 9 seconds, their brain had automatically shut down the connection to protect itself from damage. Dr. Santos ran her quantum measurement tools during the next test with a different alien volunteer. This time, the subject was a Nerian, whose blue skin glowed softly under the lab lights. The water-dwelling being had to wear a special suit to breathe air, but seemed happy to participate in the research. The quantum readings during eye contact showed something that changed everything. They thought they knew about human consciousness. Santis watched her instruments detect tiny particles that became connected between the human and alien minds. For those brief seconds, the quantum states of both brains were linked together in ways that should have been impossible. Commander, Turner carefully observed the body language of every alien test subject. He noticed that they all showed signs of receiving unexpected information. Their posture changed, as if they were suddenly learning things they had not expected to know. Some aliens seemed confused by emotions that were not their own. Others appeared to be seeing memories that belonged to someone else. After testing aliens from 6 different species, the pattern was always the same. Normal interaction for 8 or 9 seconds, followed by an overwhelming rush of data that forced them to break. Eye contact. The type of information seemed to be different for each species, but the timing was always consistent. Dr. Wright expanded his brain scans to include human volunteers looking at each other. What he discovered was that humans were constantly sending and receiving massive amounts of information through eye contact, but their minds had learned to filter most of it out. The process happened automatically without conscious thought. When 2 humans made eye contact, their brains shared emotional states, memories, intentions, and even personality traits for brief moments. Evolution had equipped humans with mental barriers that prevented them from being overwhelmed by this constant flow of consciousness. But aliens did not have these natural protections. Dr. Santis realized that her quantum measurements were detecting actual telepathic communication. Human minds were naturally creating connections between consciousness that other species had never evolved to handle. What humans thought of as normal eye contact was actually a sophisticated form of mind-to-mind contact that worked without any technology. The team tested their theory by asking human volunteers to try suppressing their natural mental barriers during alien contact. This required special meditation techniques and was very difficult to maintain. When humans lowered their unconscious defenses, the effects on alien subjects became much more intense. Alien volunteers, who had previously lasted 9 seconds, could now barely manage 3 before showing signs of severe distress. Some described feeling like their personality was being invaded or replaced. Others said they could suddenly access human memories and emotions that did not belong to them. A few aliens had to end the tests early because the experience was too overwhelming. Dr. Ross documented everything carefully as the shocking truth became clear. Humans were not just another intelligent species that had learned to travel between stars. They were natural telepaths whose abilities had developed over millions of years of evolution. Every human carried sophisticated mental communication systems that activated automatically during eye contact. The implications were enormous. Every interaction between humans and aliens involved unconscious telepathic contact that only humans were equipped to handle safely. Other species experienced this as a flood of foreign consciousness that their minds could not process or understand. Commander Turner finished his analysis and presented his conclusions to the team. Humans had been accidentally performing telepathic contact with every alien they met. The 9-second limit was how long most alien nervous systems could maintain connection before being forced to disconnect for their own protection. Dr. Ross realized that this discovery would change everything about how humans interacted with other intelligent life in the galaxy. 6 months after the first tests, Dr. Amanda Ross had expanded her research team to include experts who studied human history and ancient cultures. She wanted to understand how long humans had possessed these telepathic abilities and whether people in the past had known about them. The answers she found were more incredible than anything she had imagined. Dr. Ryan Clark was an archaeologist who specialized in studying very old human settlements and artifacts. He had spent weeks examining cave paintings, rock carvings, and ancient writings from all around Earth. What he discovered was that every human culture throughout history had some form of belief about the power of eye contact and the ability to see into another person's soul. Professor Nancy Bell joined the team as a historian who had studied thousands of old books and stories from different civilizations. She found that ancient texts from Egypt, Greece, Rome, China, and dozens of other cultures all mentioned the same ideas about eyes being windows to the spirit and the danger of looking too deeply into another person's gaze. These were not just pretty metaphors or poetic language, as scholars had always believed. They were accurate descriptions of real telepathic phenomena that humans had been experiencing for thousands of years. Ancient people knew that eye contact could reveal thoughts, emotions, and even memories, but they did not have the scientific knowledge to explain how it worked. Dr. Kevin Wright expanded his brain scanning studies to include detailed analysis of human neural development from birth through adulthood. What he found changed everything they thought they knew about how human minds grew and learned. Babies were born with fully active telepathic abilities that had to be gradually suppressed as they got older. Young children naturally shared consciousness with their parents and siblings through eye contact. This explained why babies seemed to understand emotions and intentions long before they could speak or understand language. They were literally reading the minds of adults around them through direct mental connection. The process of growing up involved learning to build mental barriers that blocked most telepathic input. Parents unconsciously taught children not to stare at people and to look away when eye contact became too intense. This social training was actually essential psychological development that prevented children from being overwhelmed by constant telepathic noise. Dr. Wright studied the brain scans of adults who had grown up in isolation or had missed normal social development. These individuals showed different neural patterns and reported being able to sense other people's thoughts and feelings much more clearly than average humans. However, they also suffered from severe mental health problems because they could not filter out unwanted telepathic information. Commander Alex Turner interviewed long-term prisoners who had spent years in solitary confinement and meditation experts who had trained for decades to break down their mental barriers. Both groups reported similar experiences when they made prolonged eye contact with other humans. They described temporary personality, merging shared memories, and in extreme cases, permanent changes to their own thoughts and behaviors. The team conducted careful experiments with volunteer humans who agreed to attempt extended eye contact while suppressing their natural mental defenses. The results were dramatic and sometimes frightening. Participants reported experiencing complete, temporary fusion of consciousness where they could not tell which thoughts and memories belonged to them and which belonged to the other person. Some volunteers who maintained unprotected eye contact for more than 30 seconds showed lasting psychological changes. They retained memories that belonged to their partner and developed personality, traits that had not existed before the experiment. A few participants reported ongoing telepathic connection, even when they were no longer looking at each other. Maria Santos discovered that human telepathic abilities were not limited to direct eye contact. Her quantum measurement tools detected consciousness fields around all humans that extended several feet in every direction. These fields were much stronger during eye contact, but were present at all times, even when humans were not looking at each other. This explained why many aliens reported feeling uncomfortable around humans, even during casual interactions. Humans were constantly projecting low-level telepathic energy that other species could sense, but could not understand or filter out. What felt normal to humans registered as mental static or psychic pressure to alien minds. Dr. Santos found that human consciousness fields became stronger during emotional states, like anger, fear, love, or excitement. They also increased in power. When humans were in groups, especially when multiple people were focused on the same goal or feeling the same emotion, large gatherings of humans created telepathic interference that could be detected by sensitive equipment from miles away. The quantum physicist realized that human evolution had produced a species that was naturally connected at the consciousness level. Individual human minds were actually part of a larger telepathic network that spanned the entire species. This network was usually unconscious and heavily filtered, but it explained many aspects of human behavior that had puzzled scientists for years. Dr. Ross began to understand why humans had developed such complex social structures and sophisticated emotional intelligence compared to other intelligent species they had encountered. Humans could unconsciously sense the thoughts and feelings of others around them, which made them naturally empathetic and socially aware. The telepathic network also explained how human cultures could develop similar ideas and innovations independently in different parts of the world. Information and inspiration could spread through unconscious mental connections between individuals who had never met or communicated through normal means. Professor Bell found historical evidence that some human cultures had deliberately developed techniques to enhance their natural telepathic abilities. Mystery schools in ancient Egypt and Greece had trained students in methods for conscious mind-to-mind communication. Similar practices existed in Tibet, India, and among various indigenous cultures around the world. These advanced practitioners had been able to share knowledge, emotions, and even sensory experiences across great distances through trained telepathic connection. However, their abilities had been kept secret because most people were not mentally prepared to handle conscious telepathy without losing their individual identity. Ross realized that humanity's journey to the stars had revealed something extraordinary about their own species. Humans were not just intelligent tool users who had learned to build spacecraft. They were natural telepaths whose consciousness operated on quantum levels that other galactic civilizations had never encountered. The simple act of making eye contact, which humans had been doing unconsciously for their entire evolutionary history, was actually one of the most sophisticated forms of mental communication known to exist. When humans looked into alien eyes, they were unconsciously attempting to establish the same telepathic connections they used naturally with each other. The research team now understood why aliens could only tolerate human eye contact for 9 seconds. They were experiencing a direct quantum-level merger with human consciousness that their minds had never evolved to handle safely. News about the telepathic discovery spread through human space faster than anyone had expected. Despite attempts to keep the research classified, the information leaked through military channels, scientific networks, and eventually reached civilian populations across dozens of human colonies. Admiral Patricia Lewis called an emergency meeting of Earth's highest-ranking officials to discuss what this meant for humanity's future in the galaxy. Dr. Amanda Ross found herself standing before a room full of admirals, generals, and politicians who wanted answers about whether humans were dangerous to other intelligent life. She explained her research carefully using simple language to help them understand the implications of natural human telepathy. The room fell silent when she finished describing how human eye contact could overwhelm alien consciousness in less than 10 seconds. Admiral Lewis asked the question that everyone was thinking. If humans were accidentally invading alien minds, every time they made eye contact, how many diplomatic incidents had been caused by this unconscious telepathic assault? Dr. Ross admitted that they would need to review every alien encounter in human history to understand the full scope of the problem. Captain Jake Martinez was called to testify about his experiences during first contact missions. He described dozens of small incidents that had seemed like cultural misunderstandings at the time, but now made perfect sense. Aliens who became suddenly hostile during negotiations, trade discussions that failed for no apparent reason, species that agreed to meet, humans but then canceled future meetings without explanation. The Galactic Cooperation Council was an organization of 47 alien species that had existed for thousands of years before humans discovered space travel. When Dr. Ross was invited to present her findings to the council, the reaction was immediate and intense. Some alien delegates left the meeting room within minutes of hearing about human telepathic abilities. Elder Counselor Vexthil of the Andromedan Collective spoke for many species when he expressed shock and concern about humanity's natural mind invasion capabilities. He explained that in all their thousands of years of exploring the galaxy, they had never encountered a species with such powerful unconscious telepathic abilities. Most civilizations required decades of training and sophisticated technology to achieve even basic mental communication. The council revealed information that stunned the human delegation. Several alien species had already begun classifying humans as a potential psychic threat to galactic stability. The crystalline hegemony had implemented strict protocols, requiring physical barriers and protective equipment during any interaction with human representatives. Their scientists had developed special helmets that blocked telepathic intrusion, but the devices were expensive and uncomfortable to wear. The void touched had gone much further than simple protective measures. They had declared all human controlled space to be off limits to their citizens due to what they called consciousness contamination risks. Their government feared that exposure to human telepathic fields could cause permanent psychological damage to their people, who had evolved in completely different mental environments. However, not every alien reaction was negative or fearful. The empathic Zelans expressed fascination with human telepathic development and requested permission to study human meditation techniques that might allow them to safely develop similar abilities. Their natural emotional sensitivity made them more compatible with human consciousness fields, though they still could not handle direct eye contact for extended periods. The ancient keepers were one of the galaxy's oldest and most respected civilizations. They had observed the rise and fall of hundreds of intelligent species over millions of years and had never encountered anything like human natural telepathy. They offered to share their vast archives of galactic history in exchange for the opportunity to study human neural development and consciousness evolution. Maria Santos discovered that human telepathic abilities extended far beyond what they had initially measured. When she expanded her quantum detection equipment to monitor larger areas, she found that human consciousness fields could influence each other across much greater distances than anyone had realized. Humans living in the same city or working in the same building were constantly sharing subtle telepathic information without being aware of it. This discovery explained many mysteries about human social behavior, including how crowds could suddenly change direction, how popular ideas could spread faster than normal communication, and why humans living in the same areas often developed similar thoughts and opinions over time. The unconscious telepathic network was constantly shaping human culture and society in ways that no one had understood before. Commander Alex Turner analyzed reports from human colonies that had been established near alien settlements. He found consistent patterns of problems that had previously been attributed to cultural differences or territorial disputes. Alien populations living close to humans reported increased stress levels, strange dreams, and difficulty maintaining their traditional social structures. The telepathic interference was not intentionally harmful, but alien minds were not equipped to filter out the constant low-level mental noise generated by human consciousness fields. Prolonged exposure could cause psychological problems, ranging from anxiety and confusion to complete mental breakdown depending on the species and the intensity of human telepathic activity in the area. Some alien governments began demanding that humans establish larger buffer zones around their colonies and space stations. The neutral zone that had originally been created to prevent physical conflicts was expanded to include telepathic protection requirements. Several species requested that human telepathic emissions be classified as a form of environmental pollution. That needed to be controlled and regulated. Dr. Kevin Wright's research revealed that different humans had varying levels of telepathic strength. Some individuals generated much stronger consciousness fields than others and could affect aliens from greater distances or cause more intense reactions during eye contact. A small percentage of humans seemed to have natural telepathic abilities that were far above average and could potentially be dangerous to unprepared alien minds. Ambassador Lisa Chun found herself in the difficult position of trying to maintain diplomatic relations with species that now viewed humans as unconscious, psychic aggressors. She worked with alien representatives to develop new protocols for safe interaction, but the negotiations were complicated by the fact that many aliens could no longer tolerate being in the same room as humans without protective equipment. The galactic political landscape shifted dramatically as news of human abilities spread to more distant regions of space. Some advanced civilizations saw humans as potential allies whose telepathic gifts could be valuable for research and development. Others viewed humanity as a threat that needed to be contained or eliminated before their consciousness contamination could spread further. Trade relations became much more complicated when alien merchants began requiring special compensation for the psychological stress of dealing with human telepathic fields. Some species developed new technologies specifically for blocking human mental emissions, but these devices were expensive and not always effective against stronger human telepaths. Dr. Ross realized that humanity faced a critical choice about their future in the galaxy. They could try to suppress their natural telepathic abilities to make other species more comfortable, or they could embrace their unique gifts and find ways to use them responsibly. Either path would require fundamental changes to how humans interacted with the rest of galactic civilization. 2 years had passed since Dr. Amanda Ross first noticed the strange behavior during alien eye contact aboard the Independence. The discovery of human telepathic abilities had transformed everything about how humanity approached life among the stars. The newly established Institute for Consciousness Studies had become one of the most important research centers in human space, with Dr. Ross serving as its first director. Training programs for human diplomats, traders, and colonists now included extensive courses on telepathic awareness and mental discipline. Students learned meditation techniques that allowed them to consciously suppress their natural consciousness projection during alien interactions. The process required constant concentration and was mentally exhausting, but it made safe contact possible with most alien species. Ambassador Lisa Chun had become Earth's first Minister of Consciousness, Diplomacy, and spent her time traveling between human and alien worlds to establish new protocols for telepathic safety. Her work was challenging because every alien species reacted differently to human mental emissions and required customized approaches for safe interaction. Dr. Kevin Wright's expanded research had revolutionized human medicine and psychology. He discovered that many mental health conditions were actually caused by problems with natural telepathic barriers. People who suffered from depression, anxiety, or personality disorders often had either too much sensitivity to other people's thoughts or insufficient mental shielding to protect themselves from telepathic interference. New therapeutic treatments based on strengthening natural consciousness barriers showed remarkable success rates. Patients learned to consciously control their telepathic sensitivity and build stronger mental defenses against unwanted psychic input. Mental health improved dramatically when people could filter out the constant low-level telepathic noise from other humans around them. Some human communities chose to embrace their telepathic abilities rather than suppress them. Isolated research. Colonies experimented with deliberately lowering their mental barriers to create stronger connections between colonists. These settlements developed unprecedented levels of cooperation, empathy, and emotional understanding among their populations. However, the telepathic experiments also revealed serious dangers. When individual colonists experienced trauma, grief, or mental illness, these negative emotions could spread rapidly through the shared consciousness network. Several experimental communities suffered collective psychological breakdowns when one person's problems contaminated the minds of everyone around them. Dr. Maria Santos continued her quantum research and made discoveries that expanded understanding of consciousness itself. She found that human telepathic abilities were connected to fundamental properties of reality that other species had never encountered. Human minds operated on quantum levels that allowed them to influence matter and energy in ways that seemed impossible according to normal physics. The implications were staggering. Humans were not just telepathic communicators, but possessed natural abilities that bordered on what other species would consider supernatural powers. Strong human telepaths could affect electronic equipment, influence random events, and even cause physical changes in their environment through focused mental effort. Commander Alex Turner documented cases of humans who had learned to use their abilities consciously. These individuals could share sensory experiences with others, communicate across vast distances without technology, and even access memories and knowledge from people they had never met. However, such advanced telepathic use required years of training and carried serious risks of mental instability. The galactic political situation continued to evolve as more species learned about human consciousness abilities. The Galactic Cooperation Council established the Consciousness Accords, which created universal standards for interaction between telepathic and non-telepathic civilizations. Humans became the primary example and test case for all future contact with similar species. Some alien governments actively sought alliances with humanity, hoping to gain access to telepathic technologies and techniques. The Zelans successfully established joint research programs with human scientists and made significant progress in developing their own limited telepathic abilities. Their natural empathy made them more compatible with human consciousness fields than most other species. Other civilizations formed defensive pacts specifically designed to counter what they perceived as the human telepathic threat. The Void Touched created an entire military doctrine based on protecting their territory from consciousness contamination. They developed weapons and shields designed to disrupt human telepathic fields and prevent mental invasion during conflicts. Dr. Ross worked with alien scientists to develop new technologies that could protect non-telepathic species from unwanted human mental contact. These devices ranged from simple personal shields that blocked consciousness fields to large installations that could protect entire cities from telepathic interference. The technology was expensive and not completely effective, but it allowed more normal interaction between humans and sensitive alien species. The discovery had also changed how humans understood their own history and development. Ancient human cultures that had spoken of mystical powers, psychic abilities, and spiritual connections were revealed to have been describing real telepathic phenomena. Religious and philosophical traditions took on new meaning when viewed through the lens of natural consciousness manipulation abilities. Human space exploration took on a different character as telepathic considerations became part of all mission planning. Colonists were screened for telepathic strength before being allowed to settle near alien populations. Diplomatic missions included telepathic specialists who could monitor and control human mental emissions during sensitive negotiations. Educational systems throughout human space added consciousness awareness to their standard curriculum. Children learned about their telepathic abilities at an early age and were taught proper mental discipline alongside traditional subjects. The goal was to create a generation of humans who could use their natural gifts responsibly without accidentally harming other intelligent life. Trade and commerce adapted to accommodate telepathic considerations. Human merchants learned to work with alien partners who required protective equipment or special compensation for dealing with consciousness fields. New professions emerged, including telepathic consultants, mental field technicians, and consciousness safety inspectors. Captain Jake Martinez had been promoted to admiral and served as the military liaison for telepathic affairs. His forces developed new strategies and equipment for conflicts involving telepathic species. Human military advantages were obvious, but came with serious ethical concerns about the use of consciousness manipulation as a weapon. The journey that had begun with a simple observation about alien eye contact behavior had revealed that humanity occupied a unique position in galactic civilization. They were the first naturally telepathic species that most aliens had ever encountered, and their abilities were far more powerful and sophisticated than anything achieved through technology by other civilizations. D.R. Ross published her final comprehensive report on human telepathic abilities and their implications for galactic society. The document became required reading for diplomats, scientists, and military personnel throughout known space. Her conclusion was both hopeful and sobering. Humans had been given extraordinary natural gifts that came with extraordinary responsibilities. They could choose to become bridges between different forms of consciousness, helping other species understand and develop their own mental abilities. Or they could become feared predators whose unconscious telepathic power made them unwelcome among peaceful galactic civilizations. The future of human integration into galactic society would depend on how well they learn to control and use their consciousness abilities. The simple act of making eye contact had revealed that humans were far more than just another intelligent species with spaceships. They were natural telepaths whose minds operated on levels that other civilizations spent millennia trying to understand and achieve. The real reason aliens avoided eye contact with humans after 10 seconds was now clear. They were experiencing a form of consciousness merger that their species had never evolved to handle. In those brief moments, they became temporarily human, sharing in mental connections that were both beautiful and terrifying for minds that had developed in isolation from such intimate telepathic contact.